The views and opinions expressed by the guests of Sasquatch Experience do not necessarily reflect the opinion of the hosts, sponsors, or affiliates of the Sasquatch Experience. As always, listener discretion is advised.
911, what are you reporting?
We got someone or something crawling around out here.
Does a legend walk among us, lurking in the forests of our world?
Did you see what it was? Was it a person or an animal or?
I can't tell. All I know is that my sensor light came on and I just happened to glimpse and see this thing running across the yard. A good-sized man or something. It looks like a man. I don't know what it was.
For over 15 years, we've talked with scientists, researchers, investigators, and witnesses, trying to gain insight and proof around the existence of this mysterious entity.
Jesus Christ, you better... Tia!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh. Okay, hang on.
He's right...
Is he in your yard, sir?
Yeah, God, he's big.
Okay, what's he doing in your yard?
He's looking at me.
Join us as we continue into the investigation of the Sasquatch Experience. And good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Sasquatch Experience. Here we are again on Monday, June 13th, 2022. We're back after a little hiatus. And, man, it's just great to be here on this kind of balmy Monday night. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Warm. Sweaty. Humid.
It seems to be the constant theme here a little bit.
Welcome to summer.
Folks, just in case you forgot who we were, because that happens from time to time, there's our names. I'm Sean the Fork Chop Forker. That's Henry May. Below me is James Baker, and off to the corner is Vance Nesbitt, right where he belongs. In the corner. And guys, yes. It's great. What a, some things have happened since we've been gone. We went to the Forest County Bigfoot Festival this weekend, which we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. But A Flash of Beauty documentary came out. Henry, did you get a chance to view that yet?
I have not seen it.
You have not seen it. Me either. So it was on the list for things to do today, and I just couldn't squeeze it in. But it's getting good reviews. People like it. Visually, it looks stunning. It's called A Flash of Beauty, and it features some of our friends out, and of course, one of which will be on here. We'll be discussing here tonight. So if you get a chance, check it out. What's on your mind, guys?
Well, it's Pride Month, so I figured we'd all talk about, Pride Squatch.
Stop it.
What?
Behave.
It's an
I am
animal.
behaving. This is behaving.
Animals in general do not care about gender. It's all about the pleasure thing.
That's true.
Exactly. See?
That's
and
true.
That's recognition right there.
Animal gets in heat, the other animals work it out. It's the way it works, all right? I mean,
but for those of our audience that are of the persuasion, we celebrate you and thank you for tuning in and being a good supporter of the show.
Yes,
We'll
thank
leave
you.
it at that. Don't need to dive into politics on a Bigfoot talk show.
No, never.
Come on here to have fun.
Politics here. This is a political free zone.
It is.
Yes, it is. Until it gets into the Bigfoot thing.
Well, Bigfoot is, kind of subjective, right? In fact, what we found out this weekend being at Forest County, a lot of skeptics, which is okay because the skeptic point of view is always appreciated, but a lot of interesting people that are really into the psychic Sasquatch and the other, kind of more paranormal elements to this mystery. And, I did a presentation there. Beg jumped up at the end, and we, of course, talked about our exploding deer, which we vaporizing deer, which we always do. And he's on that horse. A whole horse went missing saddled and everything. A
Wow.
horse. Bake, show that. Put that up to the camera one more time. So,
Wow.
if anybody has any information on this missing horse,
Wow.
they can. Give up because
Move it closer in
There
front of
you
your
are.
face. Okay, there it is. Okay.
Hold it.
So
Now, we had a conversation on whether this was a spectral horse or a real horse, because it is a white pale horse,
right.
So,
Somebody
I ask
in that-
questions.
Somebody in that part of the state should notice a missing horse, or somebody just came up with a
Whole
horse. Somebody got a new horse up there. 724-355-4844. If you have any information on the
And
missing
it was
horse,
saddled.
yeah,
Please,
it was-
only call them
Wow.
if you know about the horse.
yes, only
Wow.
call them if you have information on the horse. The whole horse disappeared.
Hmm.
Jenny King joining us on Facebook. Jenny, honey, thanks for joining us. Good to see you. And Jamie, two of our dearest friends. Really had a great weekend of, hanging out with the Kings, the Fargiorgios, Snuffy and Cheryl. They were up there with the chainsaws, carving Bigfoot statues. Of course, made some new friends as we always do. Amy Boo, of course, put this event together. Amy, did a heck of a job getting different speakers. I don't think any of us talked about the same thing. Jamie and Jenny had a great presentation, really outside the box kind of thinking and approach to research. And we've had them on the show. We'll get them on again. Kevin I'm not even going to try to say his last name because I'll butcher it. Tall guy, very funny, full of information, knows a hell of a lot about game cameras. And when there was the roundtable portion of the discussion, was able to give some good insight. And we'll get him on the show as well here. And then, of course, David Wickham was there in attendance. Always good to see David, though I didn't get to interact with him very much because we were told we had 45 minutes. Then we went to an hour, and then I went to go get ice cream and came back and went to the round table. And then we added more people to the round table. And so, we really wasn't just conducive to hanging out.
You had me at ice cream, but so
You gotta love ice cream, man. Ice cream is the spice of life, and they had it there.
pretty
Bigfoot
good.
Sunday, Bigfoot brownie Sunday.
nice.
And of course,
I
my
don't
fat
know.
ass tore that up because ice cream.
Bigfoot brownie though. That what? Bigfoot brownie?
Yes,
I don't know.
Bigfoot
If that sounds
brownie.
appetizing.
Oh, it was delicious. It was good.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
All the barbecue you could think of. It was a good time, and we were glad to be a part of it. But again, we ran into our good
Jamie.
friends, the Legend Hunters, Dave and
Mhm.
Carrie Rupert, Ryan Cavaline. Of course, we had Ryan on the show last year. We talked about, the Mountain Devil movies that he had put together. There's 3 of them now. You can get them on Amazon. They're streaming. Low budget, micro budget horror films, and they're fun, right? If anything, they're not always to tell a serious story. Sometimes they're just made to be a B movie. And
And
I enjoy
entertaining.
them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Entertaining.
it was
And I think
entertainment.
sometimes we have to get the collective sticks out of our bums and realize that it's okay to have fun with the subject, and that we need to be able to not just entertain those outside the field, but entertain those of us in the field too.
Mhm. Here.
Executive producer Brian Corbin in the chat. Brian, good to see you tonight. Oh yeah, it's important that we keep the entertainment factor alive, because this is supposed to be enjoyable. When it's not enjoyable anymore, it becomes a job, and then it becomes something that nobody wants to do, and it becomes a lot of work.
Right.
And there's so many different opinions, and I guess that was my big takeaway from the weekend. And I even said it, and this is kind of radical coming from me, is I'm not going to be the person to tell you what you experienced and what you didn't experience. I'm not going to be the person that slaps you around and rejects your premise because it doesn't fit to what I believe. And I think we all need to take that approach a little bit more, be more sensitive to witnesses. We expect an awful lot out of witnesses. They're not always treated fairly. They're treated like data points and not so much as people. And we really have to get back to a point in time where we're treating people that are reporting these things to us with a little care and empathy and compassion, unless that they're just being bullshitters.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes you also have to understand that the bullshit that they're spitting could be their reality. And sometimes taking them out of that reality could be a little bit more detrimental to their mental health.
Or dangerous to you.
More dangerous to you. Case in point, I think we were okay talking about this at the round table. Lovely lady comes up, lovely elderly lady comes up to the microphone. Amy introduces her. She says she's got something important to tell us. Amy gives her, the microphone, and she proceeds to tell us that she's 26,000 years old. She's an extraterrestrial in masculine form, and that she came to this planet on a UFO, and she communicates and has had a long-term communication with a Sasquatch who does a lot of her daily errands, and can pretty much get the Sasquatch to do anything she needs it to do, because it's kind of like her valet. But she's 26,000 years old. But she gets up and says this in front of us, a couple hundred people, like not just the people sitting in front of us, but anybody within earshots of these speakers, now know that we were in the presence of a 26,000-year-old extraterrestrial.
But what a crap in your drawers moment if that were actually a real thing, right?
There you go, right? And me, after this comes just after I've told people I'm not one to judge somebody about what
exactly. That's how it works. That's why she came to the microphone.
So
exactly.
Me and a couple of the other speakers are looking at each other with that proverbial, what the, is this?
Right.
And,
right.
I'm looking at Amy. I'm looking at Kevin. I'm looking at David. I don't think any of us can really look at each other. And I'm like biting through my lip to just get through the scenario.
So
go ahead.
What did she want?
She just wanted to share that
to tell people.
Yeah. Yes, she just wanted to make that point.
1,000 years old, and I'm not. I play with Bigfoot every day.
Okay. I tell you what, if she was 26,000 years old, she looked good for 26,000.
Let's say so. I'm more concerned about what were the errands that Sasquatch was running for her. That's what I want to know.
Like maybe changing light bulbs. I have no clue. We really didn't get into it because we were short for time.
Maybe she's got bunions.
And we had to get into the foot measuring contest and the Bigfoot calling contest that was also in the lineup. So we couldn't. Thank God we were saved by the bell on that. But we could have went further down the rabbit hole, but it didn't.
Okay.
Amy Boo in the chat.
I'd be kind of bored after at 26,000. Yeah, I'd be kind of bored.
Hey, Amy.
Listen,
I would like to complain about the Bigfoot calling contest.
It takes an awful lot of balls to get up and speak in front of people in general.
Yes.
It takes a gigantic pair of titanium testicles to stand up there and say you're 26,000-year-old extraterrestrial.
Right. I don't know. I guess if you're an extraterrestrial, maybe time flies a little faster for you. I'm not really sure, but I would say after 26,000 years, I'd be kind of bored with all this continual crap that's going on.
I'd have picked up and gone to another planet by now.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, there's kind of a clown car show here. Let me move on.
I mean,
go ahead.
I mean, you got to realize this: how many thousands of years we've been on this planet. I mean, some of that was probably boring. She might have saw the, I don't know how many years. She just saw some really unique animals, and then we show up.
No, true.
But the point is, we didn't get a lot of time to ask her about the physical attributes of the Bigfoot, Sasquatch. There was some that we could have went into some really good questions. We just didn't have the time. I didn't get a chance to interact
Amy's
with her again.
Here.
Yeah, poor Amy. She was the MC, and she didn't. None of us knew what to do. It's not like we jumped up to help her at all. We kind of just let her, because we're. What the hell do you say? Can
I see your car? Again, what is it that you travel in?
And again, I say this just comes after I make the statement that I'm not that person that's going to judge you.
Yeah, right.
So
right.
What the hell?
Can I speak to your handler?
But the 26,000-year-old lady was not the only one.
Yeah.
A little bit later on in the evening, as we're winding down and just relaxing, James Baker sends Andy Dick
I did this.
combined with Mr. Rogers, and who quite literally may be the stunt double for Ann B. Davis in her retired years. Alice from the Brady Bunch, if you guys don't know who Ann B. Davis is, to me to inform me that I need to start reading these books so I can prepare myself to speak telepathically with Bigfoot to prevent the end of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It was
well,
like
there's
a
a showstopper.
Now, I'm not saying everything they said was crap either, because she and I don't remember her name. She introduced herself to me, but I kind of zoned out a little bit, not going to lie. And if they're listening, I'm sorry. It was kind of weird, but she was making points about dreams. And as you wake up, you know, you could have the most vivid dream. And as you start waking up, you start losing the memory of that dream.
Mm-hmm.
Like how quickly it fades, because you have dreams all the time. You don't remember 99.9% of the dreams you have.
Right.
But she's talking about how the dreams are really communications from extraterrestrials, and they're being filtered into your language, and that's why you forget them so quickly.
Yeah, but that's not really the first forum I've heard that in. I've heard that for years on many different forums. So
this is a Bigfoot show, and at my core, I believe Bigfoot to be a flesh and blood creature that has been natural to this planet, not dropped off by any extraterrestrial or anything of that sort. That's what I believe, right?
Yeah.
But these people
there
are
are
committed
questions.
and convinced, and this is their reality and their truth. And
I
you feel bad for telling them they're full of shit, because you don't know for sure. It's crazy to us, right? We all accept this to be crazy and not a real possibility and not real. But there are people that don't believe that, and they don't think we're right. So I don't know.
So I go back to the analogy. Right. So I go back to the analogy. Let's just move back, 500-800 years ago, when settlers were moving in the Caribbean and they're having a conversation around a campfire. And the next morning, there's a bird in the tree repeating everything they were talking about in their voice as a parrot. Okay, this is something new. And then they're going to share, hey, this bird can talk to us. Yeah, sure it did. Right.
Who drank all the rum?
So I leave possibilities open. I always have. Again, I fall back to the whole Skinwalker Ranch thing with the NID scientists, what they said that they claim that they saw. Just looking at it from a scientific aspect, that this portal light opened and this Bigfoot type of creature climbed. Okay, I'll leave anything open in the possibility, but I'm on the same page as Sean is. I'm going to start at the flesh and blood aspect and work from there. I'll keep spiraling out from that point.
But let's be very clear here. There are elements that are happening in a lot of sightings now that I have no explanation for.
Right.
Mysterious lights that, or orbs of light that just show up and disappear for no reason during these Bigfoot sightings. Mysterious flashes of light. Footprints that go on for miles and then they just stop with no backtracking.
Right.
Like, these aren't new things, but these lights are starting to be seen quite often. And they're being reported more at a frequency than I ever remember. So I have to wonder, is it because there's a lot more people out there speaking at these events that do have a paranormal spin, and people are just, adding that to
embellishing
their story,
more to it, right?
Or is it really happening?
Right.
And I've heard this lights from very, very, very credible people. And that's when I have a hard time dispelling it. People I've researched with for over 20 years, Vance, telling me they see these lights.
Oh, yeah. No. I totally agree with you. Look, even Moorhead said the same thing. When he captured the Sierra sounds, but, when they were in the camp, they saw these lights moving through the woods. He didn't know what to make of it. Does one have any correlation with the other? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I would tend to scientifically look at it as two separate things that kind of like us as children, we'd run around chasing fireflies as little kids outside. And maybe that's the same thing. So when these lights appear, maybe a Sasquatch is attracted to it. And the next thing you know, oh, there's a Sasquatch where this light was. I don't know.
Listen, again, I say Bigfoot to me is a flesh and blood being and creature.
Right.
But
Right.
I have been out in the field with Dave Rupert and Carrie Rupert and Brian and Terry Seach and experienced a light phenomena
Right.
that had no explanation.
Right.
I have been out. I have taken a group. I had about 13 people or more with me one night out at State Game Lands 252, just to kind of give an idea of, what it's like to go out in Bigfoot at night, which is kind of boring. And we all experienced a strange flash of light that was non-localized and had no rhyme or reason to it.
Right.
I'm not saying they're connected. I'm just saying I've experienced them. And very credible people that I've researched with have experienced these lights and associated with Bigfoot sighting.
Mm-hmm. No,
I don't know.
Maybe the lights attract them to an area.
And we talk about,
I don't know.
The Chestnut Ridge being an area where that's prevalent. There's a lot of shit going on at the Chestnut Ridge again, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Altman just has been posting on Facebook. He's been trying to post this report. They've had some strange sounds. They've had some light phenomena. Like, something's going on. Are they connected? I don't know. Amy Boo in the chat says she tends to think they're separate things. Maybe nothing to do with Bigfoot, but who knows? And I'm kind of with her. Maybe these things are associated just by chance, and they have no, relevance to one another.
Mm-hmm.
But to just throw them out, the scientific part of this is to document.
Mm-hmm.
Met a guy this weekend. Again, Bigfoot. His name was Todd from New York. Has been studying this research area. But and whether you believe what he's saying or not, the one thing I will say is he's spending the time in an area. He's documenting. He's collecting. He's notating. He's doing everything you would want a researcher to do.
Right. Exactly.
And it tells a story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we have to start when I'm doing these presentations. And I think when I was talking to Amy off, you do these presentations, and I'm not used to presenting to the public. I'm used to presenting to researchers and people that have an established interest in Bigfoot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I have to learn how to tailor what I'm speaking to people that don't have the same level of maybe interest, experience, history, knowledge, or maybe they just want to get into this. But that thing I'm trying to drill into people's head each time is document. Everything you can, even if you think it's stupid, document it, because in those little nuances, the devil's in the details.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
No,
and in one of those little instances, that's where the story, where the answer could come from. Go ahead, James. What were you going to say?
The other reason that documentation is important is because if I wrote a journal of what I did every day or while I'm outside and I see this and I see this and I see this, right? I might not catch some big thing, but then I hand that journal to Vance, and Vance goes, dude, you notice there's 6 times that there was a light going off and there's 6 times you saw this thing.
Right.
I didn't put it together, but someone else that looked at my documentation said, I noticed this. I mean, the thing that, Sean, we kind of glimpsed at a little bit when Sean did his presentation is that we feed so much information out to everybody anymore with these. No one, 20 years ago, you didn't have people speaking on a regular basis. Like there's an event every month. It's like WWE took over the Bigfoot community. Okay,
not wrong.
But there's an event like I could be at an event every weekend almost. Okay. And the thing is like we have these people that are like, okay, now I'm seeing orbs, and now I'm seeing this stuff, and now I'm seeing this. And the lady that thought she was 20 says she's 26,000 years old. I can guarantee you, if you had a conversation about Bigfoot, and then you went back to some of the presentations from some of the people that have had sightings, you could put those two correlations. And
Right.
maybe,
Exactly.
Maybe some of it was attention because now people are paying attention. Because in a way, you clearly said as soon as she spoke, everybody stopped and she was important.
Right.
And I'm not saying she's I'm not saying there's anything wrong with her because God don't shoot me. Okay. But the fact is that I just believe that we like Sean said during the presentation, which I actually filmed, we'll get to you guys at some point as soon as I can figure out how to get it from my phone to my computer to another human.
There you go.
But basically what happened is like we send so much stuff out that if I wanted to, I could make up a Bigfoot story. I know Henry could without trying because he's read 57,000 books. But I could just from presentations I remember go, oh, it must be 8 foot because this is the stride length, and it went 400 feet into the woods and then stopped. And then there was a deer carcass half a mile away that looks like something ate it. Like I could add all those little extras just from listening to somebody who actually had
26,000 books.
Experience. Is it only 26,000 books?
That's it.
Henry's a
that's all he's read.
person.
Yeah,
pretty
much.
I mean, Henry is the reason why the South has an 8th grade reading level. He's covering everybody else. Okay?
Wow.
All right. And as the angry emails come in, we're going to go to our news break. Folks, we'll be back. Sasquatch Experience, Sean
James
Forker,
doesn't
Henry
care.
May, James Baker, and Vance Nesbitt. We'll be back.
Wow.
Shit, hopefully in just a minute.
Wow.
Come back.
All right.
Ever been insulted by somebody telling you to take bamboo and shove it up your wazoo? Well, now you can. Cloud Paper is on a mission to end deforestation caused by traditional paper products and makes a line of tree-free toilet paper and paper towels with 100% bamboo. Unlike trees, bamboo grows incredibly quick, up to 3 feet per day, and is renewable, so it can continue to be used for additional harvests. The products are soft and strong, which means you don't have to sacrifice quality for sustainability, and it gets delivered to your door in plastic-free packaging with carbon-neutral deliveries. Choose a subscription that fits your lifestyle and pause, adjust, or cancel at any time. Just visit Cloudpaper at cloudpaper.co. Again, that's cloudpaper.co.
Holy shit. The Weekly Watcher, I can't believe they have this. Don't they write about, like, Bigfoot and UFOs? First of all, UFOs are absolutely real. Bigfoot, I'm still on the fence about. But may I remind you that we are looking for information on dark wizards? If someone's gonna write about that, it's gonna be these weirdos.
Just a little tribute from Stranger Things Season 4. And she's still on the fence about Bigfoot. Imagine the neighbors. Get off my fence. Get off my lawn. Okay, thanks, Clint. This is the Sasquatch Experience, stranger than fiction news and stories. Boy, there's some enunciation there. Okay, so a Sasquatch was caught on a camera roaming through a restored natural area in Portland, Oregon. Now, you can take a look at these pictures for yourself, and I'm sure Sean will be more than happy to post them. Looks kind of fake to me, but before I get any personal editorial or opinions, let me read you this brief article on environmental services, which maintains and restores the health of Portland's watersheds, is no stranger to catching unique wildlife on trail cameras. Beavers and otters and minks are some of the common mammals caught on camera. But back in April, something new was caught on the camera. Yes, a Sasquatch. Danny Kapsich, a stormwater and restoration specialist for environmental services, attributes the sighting to the restoration work environmental services and its partners have done to improve the health of Portland's rivers and streams. And of course, this is all part of the natural area. The watershed restoration leads to cleaner water and builds community resilience and makes Portland healthier and more livable for people, fish, and wildlife. Restored natural areas within our cities have seen the return of many native plants and animal species, such as salmon, says Danny. But now we can truly see how well our restoration projects are working with this rare sighting, since Sasquatch are typically only seen in healthy natural areas. During the visit, the Sasquatch also appeared to take some time to linger on a bridge connecting the two watersheds. Environmental Services is not releasing the exact location of the sighting to protect Bigfoot, but the public is invited to view wildlife at some of its sites it has restored with community partners and follow Sasquatch's example of leaving no litter and staying on trails to protect water quality, plants, and wildlife. Environmental Services would like to remind the public the best ways to enjoy our restored watersheds is to use our eyes rather than our big feet. Give Sasquatch, wildlife, and native plants their space. There may be many things the public can do to keep Sasquatch's healthy newfound habitat and our watersheds healthy, including picking up after their dog, planting a tree, or building a rain garden. And of course, you can always volunteer for cleanup events. And I'll leave you with this note that just crossed my mind. Is a Bigfoot's big toe referred to as a big toe? Thanks again for listening to the Sasquatch Experience, Stranger Than Fiction News and Stories. And let's get back to chatting about our favorite subject.
And we're back, folks. Good evening, Sasquatch Experience. Just coming back from that news break, and Vance telling us what we can do with bamboo and Bigfoot's big toe.
Right.
Not bad, Vance. Not bad. Little conservation message. Never hurt anybody. Do good by the environment, because at the end of the day, we need it. And folks, you need the Sasquatch Experience in your life. And for as little as $2 a month, you can get access to ad-free shows, exclusive content, photos of Henry May, his online dating profile.
Go for the fifth. Yeah.
Go for the fifth. That's our code for cloud paper. No, I'm gonna see if I can make that happen.
Wow.
So for as little as $2 a month, you can support Sasquatch Experience and get yourself some ad-free content, exclusive content, and much more. Some watch-alongs, so you could watch some of your favorite Bigfoot movies with us in audio form. We're not responsible for the content that you hear. Keep in mind, it's all in good fun. Everybody may be offended by the things you hear on those watch-alongs, but it's entertainment, and that's what we do. Also, we're socially active here at the Sasquatch Experience. Follow us on Facebook, Sasquatch Experience, and on Instagram, Squatch EXP, on Twitter, and we also are starting a Facebook group because the page is nice, but the group's more interactive. So we'll get more on that as we truck along here. But guys, thanks so much for joining us here this evening. A great conversation about, the crazier side of Sasquatch research. But this festival was held in Forest County. Forest County, the whole northern tier of Pennsylvania. If you look at it in any Bigfoot database, with the exception of maybe Clearfield County, you would find it to be underwhelming. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Right. And the reasons why it's underwhelming is because up until the last 10 years, there was nobody up there investigating. Mm-hmm. A lot of PA activity took place down a lot of investigation took place down in the southwest corner of the state, right. Down around the Westmoreland County area, Fayette County area. But as we're finding, the more time we spend up here in the northern tier, the more sightings we get. Mm-hmm. Amy Boo's been doing a lot of research up there, gets some Matt Arner and myself and the Ruperts, like and Jamie and Jenny King, all of those that are spending time up here in this area. And honestly, like I said to a lot of the people, I'm a special guest. west of Clinton County. I don't go out that far as much as I used to, but definitely worth it. Sadly, though, guys, while spending time, I was able to reconnect with some really good friends of mine, some folks I haven't talked to in years. I found out that if you guys remember the Cook County episode or the Cook's Forest episode we did a while back, we talked about the husband and wife. I sadly learned that the husband in that encounter situation passed away. So that was sad to learn. You lose touch over people, over time, and you just kind of feel awful about it. But he was a good dude. He'll be missed. Never really gave their name out in the air. Won't do that, but they know who they are. And it was just nice to reconnect with folks. Dave Groves, a good listener of ours, a friend of ours, had an incredible sighting in the ANF as well. Allegheny National Forest, for those of you that aren't familiar with the acronym. And the area is very ripe. Cook's Forest in itself is so old growth, like it was never timbered. So the trees in some areas, their vents are so big, you and I would have to hold hands to put our arms around it.
Well, I just want to hold hands, period. But
well, I have that effect on people. I really do.
Yeah.
Right.
Like
But do you
John-
get the opinion possibly that when researchers move to a certain area that doesn't have a whole lot of activity, they start to discover that there's actually been a lot of activity when they start to interview people or just talk with random folks in the area that they may have had an encounter, and then all of a sudden it seems to be kind of a hot spot when it wasn't the hot spot until researchers got there.
I very briefly, and I wish I would have got to spend a little bit more time with him. I believe his name was David Vargo, who was an older gentleman, but had a lot of history of the area and also knew a lot of the native legend of the area too, which started bringing some more of this to life for me. And as I'm listening to this guy talk, I'm just in awe because of all the knowledge he has in that area. But, as Amy just posted here, she's gathered reports from hunting and fishing shows that she's attended. She's actually gone to outdoor expos and has been brave enough to have her table there where she's openly talking about Bigfoot in a very serious fishing game environment. And she's gotten stories there, which is really cool. But awesome. To her point, she goes from several decades ago. But I find that to be the case more often is that when we're up there poking around in these places, you get the hunter that's out there. He comes up to you, kind of feels you out a little bit. So you believe in all this? Yeah. Well, I got a story for you. And because these areas are a more conservative part of the state, you got very traditional values, respect of privacy, private property, guns, the traditional values. They don't often speak of these things because they don't want the ridicule that comes along with it. Right. But, when you talk to a hunter that won't go back and hunt in an area that he's hunted for 30, 40 years because he's had an encounter with something that he can't explain, that's telling. And we're getting more of those stories. And you're getting them from people of all walks of life. What was interesting is during the round table, the question of habituation came up. And Henry just, I think, maybe winced a little bit because he knows that's my least favorite H word. Because I think we really need to come up with a new name for it. And especially when we talk about that, we go back to the Cook County situation, Cook Forest situation. I think when you're talking about habituation, you're trying to entice and keep these things around, right? You're going out of your way to interact and create a relationship where you want this thing to keep building the habit of coming back. But what happens when you're an unwilling participant to that? Right. And so you really can't call that habituation because you're really not trying to instill a habit of it.
Well, right? It is a double-edged sword. Yeah, it is. It is. It's a double-edged sword.
Maybe solicitation. Soliciting Sasquatch. I don't know if that's going to be an episode title here at some point.
Yeah, it is Pride Month.
Soliciting Sasquatch. But we have to really be careful. The question is that was posed at the round table, and I guess why I went to this. Sorry for the little bit of a tangent there. Has anybody been able to successfully end a habituation situation where they haven't had to move? And I'm not familiar with Henry. Maybe you are.
No,
and you're
nor am
vast
I.
knowledge.
That's a good question. Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean,
Because
the
if you still-
habituation with, just the local creatures here, and if I don't put it out there, they still show up. They're expecting something.
Yeah, but you read Tom Powell's book, The Locals. There's, stories in that. I'm reading David Wobanks's book, Kiamichi Bigfoot, which, by the way, is a phenomenal book, and I can't wait to have him on our show here in July because so much of what he wrote in there resonated with me personally because I don't know, it's almost like the same thing I experienced, he kind of did as well. Very strange. I mean, from body shape and everything.
Right.
Gives me the chills just thinking about it. But all these stories end up with the people leaving. They don't stick around. Even that one Shannon was talking about up in the Pacific Northwest, the Browns, right? Was that
right?
They moved, didn't they? Devil Creek. Isn't that the Devil Creek people? Yeah.
Yes.
So, in those situations, maybe the only one that I know that maybe hasn't moved is Crazy Jan Carter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Henry smiled when I said that because I'm picking a fight. Henry, and does she still get activity on her crazy farm?
I've not heard much about her farm in a long time.
Garlic.
Wants garlic. Right. No, it's an interesting point.
But when I answer that question, I used the LaFleur County situation in Hanabi, Oklahoma. Henry, you're familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They moved. They didn't stay in that property.
So, but I have heard stories of people that have moved into properties, including Julie Wrench, who's been, part of this show, who moved into property where there was activity prior without her knowing. And I've heard this on a few other occasions where they moved in and then all of a sudden there's all this activity going on. And it's like, what is happening? It's because there was habituation prior to them taking residence.
But she's using it to her advantage. She's trying to study it and collect it.
Right,
the average person that's going through this does not want that.
Right.
Nope. Right. They just want to stop.
So you have to. I'm not familiar with anybody that's, managed to successfully end a habituation where they haven't moved. Now, sometimes when people move into these areas and that family that's lived in that land that had the encounters leave, the activity stops.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
True.
So, maybe it's to that person or to that set of people. I don't know.
Maybe
and then you start going into a whole
interest in it.
Yeah. You go into that whole other world of question, right? Do we start sliding to the other side of that paradigm that we're not really looking to enter too often? Is there something a little bit more to it? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But the northern tier, like I said, of Pennsylvania, not really explored or impressive on any database, but the stories are out there. And there's a great group of people out here now from which I'm proud to be, associated with. We're not a collective group or anything. We're just independent researchers doing our thing out there, but we're getting some great stories. Over the weekend, I heard Minister Creek brought up a lot. There was a guy that reported directly to me. He was sleeping in his van. And he was, relatively homeless for a while, living in his van in the Minister Creek area. And something came by one night and shook the hell out of his van. And as he went to go out, he saw this large figure walk past the windows of the door of the van. And he's like, maybe I better stay in here. And didn't interact with it further.
That's not a maybe. That's a definitely. All right.
But then, of course, you also go to Clearfield County in that area, which has had hundreds of sightings where I've had my encounter. But in 2009, I started a long-term research project with Ernie Delp. And unfortunately, the owner of the property, the main witness in this situation, also passed away. He passed away a couple months ago, maybe a month ago. Dan Calgren. I knew him Oddly enough, so to make the story not a long story, but to kind of summarize it a little bit, I did a presentation at a bookstore that year. I believe it was 2009, and a lady and her daughter come up to me at the end of the presentation. They show me these pictures of footprints that they found outside their house recently. So I take their information, write it down. My wife, who actually one of the few times my wife has actually come to see any of this stuff that I've done, she came up to me and she goes, "You know who that was?" I said, "No, I just met him." She goes, "That was my babysitter when I was a kid." You know, 6 degrees of separation, right?
Wow, right?
So, and the daughter was a good friend of my wife's, and I didn't know this. Gave me more impetus to really take this case on and want to really, you know, immerse myself in it and get some answers for these people. Well, this sighting report just spirals out of control. You go to this area, multiple witnesses. You find out that this field next to this house is legitimately a Native American burial ground. Like they've had an anthropology department out to study this. A meteor had struck in this area once upon a time. Bona fide evidence to back it up. And there's this creepy campground down in this little holler by this house where some of the sightings took place. In the middle of the night, I was down there with one of the witnesses' sons, and a hell of a storm broke loose, severe thunderstorm, and we're in this little pavilion tent by the pavilion. Flash of light, and swear to God, you could see a human-shaped silhouette or a humanoid-shaped silhouette in the lightning. Scared the hell out of me. To this day, I don't know if I actually saw it or if my eyes were just making it up because it was creepy. And, you know, you had the stories and the history.
Right. But what's your first knee-jerk reaction, though?
Holy shit, someone's standing there in the woods watching.
No, there you go. Then just go with that.
I've got two younger people there with me that might need some protection. How the hell do I'm going to get them out of there?
Right.
And this whole area was weird. Probably a dozen sightings between not just Dan and his intermediate family, but the whole family, because they all lived, like the land was owned by Dan and the family, and they all lived kind of around it. You know what I mean? Really, really interesting place. And it's kind of up by Treasure Lake, but not exactly. And it's private land, so don't try to go out and find it and get out there because you probably will be shot. But
right.
You start getting into these little towns and hamlets and villages and in these areas, and you start getting these stories, and you oftentimes you find more than just they start weaving together. You know, you have a bunch of stories where there's a lot of similarities that are hard to dispel.
Right.
Great area. I want to spend a lot more time in it. In fact, another interesting story from that area, New Year's Eve, Dave Rupert and I were talking about this. He and I both investigated this situation. Two witnesses, two sets of husband and wives on New Year's Eve are driving down, I think it's 322, Highway 322, 40 minutes apart from one another. See a large upright creature run across the road, same color, same characteristics. And the one thing they both point out, and they've never met each other before, was the white on the bottom of the feet. The feet have white soles.
There it is.
And we took Brother
There's
Ray
your credibility
out,
right there.
And Ray was the stand-in for this creature. And Ray was still like 2 feet taller than it. And Ray's like 6'3", 6'4". And Ray's a big guy.
Right.
We reenacted it. And it was just interesting to see that on that road, within 40 minutes of each other, two sets of witnesses that had never met had an encounter with what I believe to be the same creature.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, see, that's where I add my 100% credibility to it right there. When you have two unrelated witness reports explain the same experience or same physical attribute. That's it right there. Okay, sign it off and say, okay, so this happened. Oh.
I hear
it's
it.
the crazy train.
James. It's late.
It's the Baker crazy train.
He muted himself, though. He's learning. James
Oh,
Baker has adapted, folks. Let's give James a round of applause here. He's figured out how to use his mute button. All right. We're so mean to James Baker.
No,
But
not
anyhow,
at all. No, not
I'm
at
sure
all.
he just gave us a salute.
That's reason number 9.
But you were saying, Vance, I'm sorry before I cut you off.
No. I was just saying, when two witnesses have no interaction with each other, but they're reporting one attribute that stands out, that's just credibility right there that puts it at 100% for me. And say, okay, well, clearly there was that probably the same creature or same experience that happened with both of you. And that puts it at 100% for me.
Could have been, aside from little nuances, like it could have been almost the exact carbon copy, situation.
Mm-hmm. All right.
But it was just outstanding. And we got so many more when we hosted an event up there. It was called, we hosted 2 events, but the one night, that little restaurant had over 100 people in it that came to listen to us talk about Bigfoot. And we had Eric Altman and I, and in fact, that's where I met Jamie and Jenny King for the first time at that one event. We had an atlas out, and people were actually putting in an atlas where they were, where they had their encounters. One encounter that was pretty neat. The guy's name was Uncle Ernie. He was a friend of the proprietor of the establishment. He was down in a cabin behind the restaurant bar up there on the mountain. Over the top of the mountain was actually the name of the bar, and he was playing his guitar or banjo, one or the other, in the cabin. And as he looks up, he sees this huge head looking at him from the window with these big eyes, watching him play.
Oh, good God!
His music, while and he goes, he kind of just kept playing, and eventually it went away. Like he didn't want to startle it. It was just kind of a moment where he was kind of like locked in contact, but he just kept playing his instrument.
But see, cool. That's the thing. It always seems to be, and there's several accounts of testimony that I've heard from so many witnesses where they're sitting in the kitchen and they're playing cards and they're playing music, and they see out the window that this thing is looking at them or playing music. There seems to be this just curiosity of human activity that happens when humans are not actively looking for a Bigfoot. It seems to draw into them for curiosity for what is this behavior that they're doing. And they're laughing, they're drinking, they're playing cards, they're playing music. And the next thing you know, one looks out the window and sees this thing looking at them. And it eventually just kind of, I kind of been spotted, and makes its way off. How many times have I know I can speak for myself for how many times I've heard encounters like that. Kids out in the backyard, playing in the yard, swinging on the swings, and this thing is looking through the bushes at them. It seems to be very just naive, normal human activity that draws this in out of curiosity, maybe. I don't know what it is, but wow.
Well, you point that out, and I've made that, again, point I made in my presentation. It's like you were there. We go out and we beat on trees and we hoop and holler into the night, and get little results. The night I had my experience out there on the mountain, I was camping with my friends. We were going to get up the next morning and start actual research, but we were just doing normal everyday camping things.
Right.
Now, we had done some stuff earlier that night too that might have brought its attention, and there was a bunch more of us there. But like when we had the scenario, it started with just us sitting around a campfire shooting the shit, right? And then how many times do we hear that over and over again, that these people just doing everyday thing, even hunters.
Right.
Hunters aren't out there hunting Bigfoot. They're just out there trying to hunt.
Right.
Okay. And they are happened upon by these
an
Bigfoot.
Experience. Right.
And they have this experience, but they're out doing a normal thing. You talk about, the kids, right, being a focus point. And I'm in this book, Kiamichi Bigfoot, David Wilbank's book, he's talking about these folks that had Mark Copeland. He had a situation going on down in Oklahoma. One of the things that piqued the Sasquatch interest was his kids' playhouse and the kids, out playing in it, because It's probably attracted to the noise, the curiosity. What are these naked apes doing out here? You know, with the funny clothes. I'm probably
With no
more interested in
cameras.
us.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
now here's the thing. He has security cameras outside his house, and he was able to capture some pretty interesting things on these. Now, nothing conclusive,
Right.
but now here we are in the 21st century. Everybody and their brother have some sort of like security system anymore.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at Ring. It's just about every household has a Ring now.
At some point, like we're starting to get far more pictures of bear than we ever used to get in residential areas.
Right.
It's kind of alarming to actually see how often bears come into my city now. That and James is shaking his head, but like every day on the app, we get a notification like, "Up, bear in the neighborhood." You would hear about that once in a while, but now you're hearing about it all the time. At some point, that alert's going to go ding. Unknown creatures seen on camera, maybe. Then you start getting into a whole nother world of conversation that we'll have with another guest at another time about, why are these cameras not successful and so on and so forth. But for this Mark Copeland, I believe his name is Mark Copeland, in this book, he has had some success capturing object figures and shadows on camera, which may be the best we get with this technology.
I don't know. I think we need to start putting some of the security cameras aimed towards dumpsters and garbage cans.
Well, here you go.
It seems to me that might be the target point right there.
Florida, there was many reports of these creatures going through the garbage of restaurants in Florida.
Oh, sure.
The casino footage,
footage, right.
That I've never seen, but that's the Bigfoot trying to get into the grease trap of that restaurant outside the casino, and that was like in 2000 or so.
Oh yeah, that was a long time ago,
way back.
Right.
So there is precedent for this. We just have to be smart enough to do it, and we have to find a way to get the technology to work for us, not work against us, because there may be a component here that we don't understand, and we won't understand until we capture one.
Right. Well, I'll put it out there. When I'm going to do my Bigfoot research, I'm not going to be doing Bigfoot research. I'm going out to have a fun time. I'm going camping. I'm going to have fun with friends. We're going to have a fire. We're going to do s'mores. We're going to drink. And if anything happens into the area, that's how I'm going to do I'm not going to bang on trees and be real quiet. And no, I think we just conduct your business as you're out there as an innocent human being having fun and part of nature with a tent. And if something comes about, it comes about.
I think there has to be a combination, though. I think you have to have some people that are keeping themselves alert enough to notice what's going on while everyone's having a good time. Because I think you could get lost and caught up in the moment and then forget but there's a happy medium.
We're there. No, I agree.
Yeah, we got it.
Thanks,
I
Jamie.
Think, let's camp with Vance.
Yeah, I'll go camp.
That's going to be we'll do a Patreon exclusive. Let's camp with Vance.
There it is. Let's camp with Vance in his camo pants. That's the theme right there. There it is.
And guys, can you believe we're almost out of time? 9:58.
Really? Wow.
On the East Coast. We went through a lot. Henry, you didn't say much. What's on your mind?
Well, I did finish that book by Gregory Forth, Between Ape and Human. Very interesting stuff.
What was your biggest takeaway from the book?
Biggest takeaway is that it's either a real entity, or it's a misidentified monkey, or it could be a local myth of some sort.
So same old, just in a fancy package.
Right.
Gotcha. And what was the name of that book again?
Between Ape and Human.
Between Ape and Human. And on the May scale, what do you give the book?
Oh, I give it a 10 out of 10.
Wow, a 10 out of 10. All right. Henry, you getting soft in your old age there, just giving good reviews to books? Are they padding your pockets?
You'll never get fit.
Yeah, right. Oh, who's
He's
paying
going
you under
soft.
the
You've been,
table
you've
there,
been
Henry?
complimentary to a lot
Yeah.
of books lately. I'm just making
Oh.
sure you're not getting your palms greased to give good reviews.
No, not at all.
And folks, if you get a chance, because we're going to have this guy on the
Henry
show,
May Book Club.
Kayamichi Bigfoot by David
Yes, it
Wilbanks.
is.
Check it out. It's not a large read, but it's a good read. Also available on Kindle. And if you get a chance, sign up for Kindle Unlimited
Mhm.
because you can have access to a ton of Bigfoot books out there, and it won't cost you any extra. Just your Kindle Unlimited subscription. I think it's $14.99 a month. It's a little expensive, but if you like the books, go for it. I don't have anything
Thank you,
else for
Jenny.
everybody
Same to
tonight.
you. Happy strawberry.
Happy strawberry full moon
Mm-hmm. I'll do a
from
strawberry
Jenny
full moon.
King.
Yeah.
We love
Seen some
Jenny.
peaches.
Can't say good enough about my friends. I'm so blessed to have great friends and glad they support us. And guys, come back next show. We're going to wrap up season 5 Farther North, and then we'll move on to season 6
Woohoo!
Parts Unknown. How about
Oh.
it?
Farther south.
Henry,
Parts
give us those-
unknown.
parting words, my brother.
Y'all be good at it.
Keep on squatching, folks.
You've been listening to Sasquatch Experience. Please rate and review wherever this podcast is consumed. To share your experience, visit us on Facebook or email us, squatchexperience@gmail.com. Keep on squatching.